It was the start of the season, and the atmosphere in East London was far from hopeful. West Ham, now under the command of Graham Potter, had piled up discouraging results: a 3-0 defeat to Sunderland, a 5-1 thrashing at home by Chelsea, and an early exit from the League Cup against Wolverhampton. The supporters' confidence was shaken, and the press had already started pointing fingers. Among the most critical voices, one name in particular stood out: Paul Merson. A former player, now pundit Merson, has never minced his words. In his columns and television appearances, he usually takes a direct, sometimes exaggerated stance. And with West Ham, it was no different. The main target of his criticism was precisely Graham Potter, whom he claimed to know personally. But if there had once been friendship, it seemed forgotten because his words were harsh. Merson not only questioned Potter's ability, but also claimed that the manager would be sacked by October. He went further. He said West Ham would be fighting relegation, and that between the match against Nottingham Forest and the next international break, the Hammers would not pick up a single point. For him, it was impossible to imagine a reaction. In a tone bordering on mockery, the pundit ridiculed the idea of the West Ham way, questioned the decision to let David Moyes leave despite having delivered a European title, and stated that Potter had no tools to change the scenario. Merson's forecast was clear: a 2-0 defeat to Forest, unbearable pressure at the London Stadium, and an imminent dismissal. The atmosphere F crisis seemed complete. Part of the fans had begun to doubt the project, the media was already discussing possible replacements, and rumors suggested the board was considering changes. But the directors stood firm. In response, they labeled as rubbish the rumors that Potter was about to be sacked. Even so, few believed in anything other than the worst. The mood was one of pessimism. And it was in this context that West Ham travelled to Nottingham. The City Ground did not seem the ideal place for a reaction. Forest were doing well, had reinforced in the transfer window, and backed by their supporters presented themselves as favourites. Even the most optimistic West Ham fans admitted coming away with a draw would already be a relief. But football, as always, enjoys defying certainties. In the opening minutes, tension was in the air. The team still showed weaknesses. But it was something different. Potter had changed the formation, abandoning the wing-back system that had not been working. He opted for a more solid defensive structure, demanding discipline and focus from his players. The message was clear: first shut the door, then chase the result. Gradually, the game became more balanced. Nottingham Forest tried to impose rhythm. But West Ham showed organization. With every tackle, every save, it became evident that there was fighting spirit. The sense was that the team wanted to prove something, not just to the critical pundit, but to everyone who had already written them off. Time ticked on, and the match remained tight. Then in the final stretch came the explosion. Potter made changes and brought on players capable of changing the rhythm, among them Crescencio Somerville, and it was the young forward who kick-started the turnaround. He was directly involved in all 3 goals, decisive in every move. The first was scored by Jared Bowen, taking advantage of Somerville's assist. Soon after, the Dutchman won a penalty converted by Lucas Paqueta, who celebrated in striking fashion. He mimed throwing down a phone call, a gesture interpreted as a response to transfer rumors, before kissing the club badge. To finish, Somerville appeared again, this time setting up Callum Wilson, who netted the third and opened his account for West Ham. Suddenly, what had looked like a nightmare turned into a dream. West Ham were winning 3-0 away, handing Forest their heaviest home defeat in more than 25 years, and showing that, contrary to what Merson had said, there was life character and hope in Potter's work. The cameras searched for the manager's reaction on the touchline. Potter did not let himself be carried away by euphoria, but it was impossible to hide his satisfaction. In his interview, he highlighted resilience. The football world is built on results, and ours so far had been painful. But I always believed in the process. Today, the players showed character and team spirit. It was the answer the fans wanted to hear. It was the image the directors needed to see. And it was above all the scene that completely disproved Merson's catastrophic predictions. The contrast could not have been greater. While part of the press was calling for his immediate dismissal, Potter showed flexibility, adapted the team, and secured a victory that revitalized the atmosphere. Unlike other Managers who cling to an immutable philosophy, the Englishman recognized mistakes and changed. That made the difference. The impact of his victory goes beyond the scoreline. The dressing room gained confidence, the fans started to believe again, and even players who had been living moments of uncertainty, such as Lucas Paqueta, reinforced their bond with the club. The Brazilian, in addition to his goal, was named man of the match, dictating the tempo in midfield and symbolizing the unity around the manager. Another important detail was the prominence of a new Ignings. Mateus Fernandes, praised as one of Potter's good calls, showed he can be a key piece. Callum Wilson, still adapting, came off the bench and left his mark. And Somerville, with pace and daring, proved capable of changing games. It didn't take long for the press, which had once spoken of crisis, to start highlighting West Ham's response. Headlines claimed that Merson had been humiliated by his premature prediction. The irony was that while supporters of the club maintained some hope, it was precisely a former player who claimed to be Potter's friend who showed the most exaggerated pessimism. The result also brought relief in the table. From a team that seemed doomed to fight relegation, West Ham climbed positions and gained breathing space for the next run of games. More than the 3 points, they gained morale. In such a competitive league, confidence can be as important as technical quality. Potter in turn emerged stronger. He showed that even under pressure, he does not give in easily, that he can be pragmatic, that he can reinvent the team, and that he has the squad on his side. The contrast with Merson's discourse is stark. While the pundit spoke of imminent downfall, the manager delivered the clearest proof of his ability, and in the end the story unfolded in the sweetest way for the fans. Not just victory, but victory against all expectations. Victory that dismantles criticism. Victory that silences doubters. One of those matches that even early in the season can define the course of a project. In the final balance, Paul Merson may have to reflect on his words. Potter, on the other hand, can sleep peacefully. After all, few results are as sweet as those. That turned doubt into respect, swapped pessimism for hope, and above all, proved that football can silence even the loudest critics. Before we carry on, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to our channel. This is really important because it strengthens the Claret and Blue family, making our West Ham bigger and stronger every day. Jared Bowen himself, West Ham's captain, even stated that Diouf is one of the best crossers of the ball he has ever played with. And this is no small opinion. Bowen has shared a dressing room with names like Trent Alexander-Arnold Reece-James and James Ward-Prowse. To receive such praise so early shows the size of the impact the Senegalese has had. But curiously, it wasn't a cross that convinced West Ham to sign him. The decisive moment came in a very different scene, far less glamorous, but equally revealing. It all happened in June when Senegal faced England in a friendly at the City Ground home of Nottingham Forest. The African side surprised the world by winning 3-1, becoming the first team from the continent to beat England on British soil. But for West Ham scouts, the result was not what mattered most. What impressed them was the individual duel between Malik Diouf and Bukayo Saka. The Arsenal star, used to changing games and already responsible for 7 goals in 10 matches against London rivals, simply could not play. Diouf stuck to him, anticipated his movements, won duels, and left him without space. For more than 70 minutes, Saka was practically a spectator until he was substituted. For those watching live, it was clear that young fullback had the personality to face any Premier League star. According to The Athletic, it was at that moment that West Ham accelerated negotiations. The club had already been monitoring Diouf for about a year, but seeing the way he shut down one of the league's most lethal players was the trigger needed to finalize the deal. Shortly afterwards, the £19 million agreement was sealed. And Diouf did not take long to justify the investment. On his return to Nottingham, now wearing West Ham's Claret shirt, he produced one of his best performances since arriving in England. In attack, he provided the stoppage time assist for Callum. Wilson's goal, a perfect cross that found the striker's head. In defense, he showed composure by blocking a dangerous far post effort, ensuring stability at the back. Wilson himself highlighted the immediate impact of his new teammate. "It was a fantastic pass from Malek," said the forward. "I'd already seen him do that plenty of times. It was just a matter of being in the right place to take advantage, and luckily the ball went in." Such comments were echoed in the dressing room. Bowen had already publicly spoken about the quality of the fullback's crosses, and even Nicholas Philcroke, another attacking signing, praised the youngster during pre-season. What is most interesting is that Diouf is not limited to attacking. Unlike many modern fullbacks who live only for offensive projection, he combines attacking power with defensive discipline. The clearest proof was precisely his marking on Saka. But it has also been evident in other Premier League matches where he has shown reading of the game and intensity in recovery. This balance makes him a rare fullback able to deliver decisive passes in attack while being equally reliable at the back. Jarrod Bowen even revealed a conversation he had with the Senegalese in training. He said he asked Diouf never to hesitate to cross. "Every time you get the ball out wide, don't pass it back to the defender. Put it in the box. If I'm not there, you can have a go at me afterwards. But if you don't put it in, then I'll complain." This understanding between winger and fullback creates a promising partnership capable of causing plenty of problems for opposing defenses. In addition to his immediate impact at West Ham, Diouf is also enjoying a great moment with his national team. After the victory over England, he gained even more prominence in Senegal. He himself admitted that match was a landmark for Africans. "It was a reference point for us for all of Africa," he said in an interview. "It gave visibility to the players. We were lucky enough to come to the English League afterwards, but the important thing is to keep our feet on the ground and keep working. The next international challenge will be against Sudan in the World Cup qualifiers." And Diouf arrives buoyed by his good start in London. He acknowledges that the national team's style is different, but stresses that the intensity is the same, and that he intends to take to the pitch the confidence gained at West Ham. All of this helps explain why the club invested so heavily in a 20-year-old player. With refined technique, impressive physique, and a winning mentality, Diouf is not just a prospect. He is a full-back capable of raising the level of West Ham's left flank, offering both offensive creativity and defensive solidity. The £19 million investment may seem high, but if he continues at this pace, the young Senegalese will soon be regarded as one of the best signings of the Potter era. After all, it's not every day a club finds a full-back who crosses like few others, defends like a veteran, and still has the personality to face names like Bukayo Saka without fear. For West Ham, Malick Diouf has already made it clear the future is now.